Imagine taking, like, every single milestone society tells you to achieve.
Oh, sure. The promotion, the house, the retirement account.
Right, all of it. Now imagine just tossing it entirely in the trash.
Wow. Okay. Just gone.
Just gone. What if the true pinnacle of human existence actually requires you to own absolutely nothing and yet somehow feel zero anxiety about your own survival?
It sounds completely contradictory, honestly.
It does. But welcome to this deep dive, because today you and I are exploring a highly unique, deeply philosophical, and, well, honestly provocative essay. It was written by an author named Su Feng back in October 2022.
Yeah, and it's titled Shufeng-style Communism, the Highest State of Life.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And our mission today is to explore this text's radical claims about human happiness, the true nature of society, and what it actually means to reach the ultimate state of living.
Which is fascinating because it's a text that forces you to examine your baseline assumptions about, what constitutes a good life. It strips away all that padding of modern success and looks at just raw human existence.
Right. But now, before we jump in, I do need to put a very clear pin in something.
Of course. The terminology.
Yeah, the terminology. As you heard in the title, the source text relies heavily on political and ideological terms, specifically the word communism,
Which carries a lot of weight.
a massive amount of weight.
Yeah.
So I want to firmly and neutrally establish right at the top, in this deep dive, we are not endorsing, defending, or taking sides on any political ideologies. That is just not what we do here.
No, absolutely not.
Our goal is simply to act as your expert guides, impartially unpacking the specific ideas, definitions, and claims exactly as they are presented in this original source material. Think of us as museum curators. We're just walking you through a very specific exhibition of ideas.
Yeah, we are examining the architecture of the author's argument. Our job is to understand the logic they're using to build their case, regardless of how anyone might feel about the labels attached to it. Exactly. Okay, let's unpack this. Because before we can even begin to understand the author's proposed solution or lifestyle, we first have to understand how this text actually defines the ultimate goal of human existence.
Right. What are we aiming for?
Right. What is this highest state we are supposedly trying to reach?
Well, the text defines this highest state of life through two primary non-negotiable pillars. To reach the peak of human existence, you must be, number one, unselfish, and number two, selfless.
Unselfish and selfless, which sounds, I don't know, kind of generic.
It does, until you realize it frames this in incredibly absolute terms. The essay literally states that only by being unselfish can one become a celestial being, and only by being selfless can one become a Buddha.
Wow. Okay. Because when we hear those words, unselfish, selfless, we usually think of them in a very modern, casual way.
Right, like sharing your lunch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, oh, my neighbor's so unselfish, she baked me cookies, or he's so selfless, he gave up his seat on the train. But the text uses very literal, extreme definitions here.
Very extreme. According to the author, unselfishness is defined as physically having nothing, like zero possessions.
Hmm.
And selflessness is defined emotionally as the complete and total absence of trouble, anxiety, worry, and fear.
Yeah, it completely removes that gradient we usually apply to morality.
The gradient.
Yeah, like, it's not about being less selfish or having fewer worries than the next guy. The author is positing an absolute zero state. Zero property, zero anxiety.
Which, sounds completely incompatible with modern life.
Entirely.
When I read that absolute zero rule, my mind immediately went to those extreme modern movements. You see radical minimalists trying to fit all their belongings into one single backpack.
Right, the digital nomad aesthetic.
Exactly. Or folks going on a permanent digital detox, living off the grid in a cabin just to escape modern anxiety.
Yeah.
And here's my pushback. Even those people still have a backpack.
They do.
They still have a cabin. They still have to worry about, bears or running out of firewood in December. They bear the burden of maintaining their own survival. So is it actually possible to literally have nothing, yet experience absolute zero anxiety about how you're going to eat tomorrow?
What's fascinating here is that the author anticipates that exact skepticism.
They know it sounds impossible.
Exactly. The text doesn't pretend this is an easy concept to swallow. In fact, it directly challenges the reader right there. It asks, have you ever actually met an unselfish and selfless person in your ordinary life?
No. Definitely not by that definition.
Right. And the author boldly asserts that there is a 99% chance that you haven't.
The analogies they use for this are just incredibly stark. The text literally asks you, the reader, have you ever seen a fish perched in a tree? Have you ever seen a sheep grazing in the water?
I love those examples. They're so visceral.
Right, like, obviously not.
The synthesis of those striking animal metaphors really forms the foundation of the text's core argument. The author is saying that trying to find a perfectly unselfish and perfectly selfless person in ordinary society is not just difficult, it is biologically and environmentally impossible.
Because the environment is wrong.
Exactly. Just as a fish cannot survive out of water, a human being cannot achieve this highest state of zero possessions and zero anxiety within the framework of a secular, capitalist, or traditional society. The environment itself precludes the state of being.
So if survival is impossible for the selfless person in our secular world, if you are quite literally a fish out of water trying to live this absolute ideal, the author is essentially forced to build a lifeboat.
A completely new ecosystem.
Right, a completely separate environment where those secular rules just don't apply.
Yeah.
Which brings us to the natural next question. Where is it actually possible?
Well, the answer the text provides is the Sufeng-style communist life program. That is the specific engineered environment where this highest state is supposedly realized.
Let's lay out the specific facts from the text about this place, because it grounds these, frankly, very lofty philosophical ideas into a tangible reality.
It's not just a theory.
No, not at all. This lifestyle is practiced in a physical community called the Second Home, and it was established on April 18, 2009, by a group referred to as Lifechanyuan.
So this has been going on for a while.
Yeah, well over a decade. So for the author, this isn't just some thought experiment. It's an operational community that has been running for years.
And, the author's acutely aware of the historical baggage that comes with their chosen terminology.
Oh, for sure.
The text notes that when people hear the word communism, many instinctively scoff at it.
I mean, given the massive historical and political weight that word carries, that skepticism is basically the default setting for most readers.
It is. But the author defends their use of the term by arguing that this secular skepticism is based on hearsay and prejudiced concepts. Well, the argument is that people scoff because they haven't lived within the actual mechanical procedures of this specific system. They haven't seen it with their own eyes. The text points to the survival of the second home as its ultimate empirical proof.
The fact that it's still there.
Exactly. It states that since April 18, 2009, this community has experienced a series of hardships and been devastated many times, yet it still possesses a tenacious vitality and continues to exist.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though, because the text doesn't just rest its case on the fact that the community survived a few tough winters.
Right.
It tries to articulate what it actually feels like for the people who live within those boundaries.
Right.
The essay compares living in this Zhufeng-style community to climbing Mount Everest.
Yeah, standing on the peak.
Right, you're standing on the commanding heights of the Earth, looking down at all the other mountains and peaks of the world. It's this grand analogy about a massive, permanent elevation of perspective.
And then the second analogy is even more visceral, and it speaks to how deeply this environment supposedly changes a person. The text compares the experience to tasting succulent fairy peaches.
Fairy peaches, I love that. And that analogy does massive heavy lifting here. It's not just saying the new life is pleasant, right? It's arguing that it rewires your palate entirely.
It ruins everything else for you. The text argues that once a person has tasted these fairy peaches, meaning once they have lived within a system where they truly have nothing but also experience zero anxiety about their survival, they completely lose all interest in regular peaches.
You can never go back to, like, normal fruit.
Never. A normal job, a normal mortgage, it just holds no appeal.
Oh, wow.
The text claims that these members will have zero interest in any other mode of production or any other lifestyle until the day they die.
Wow.
Yeah. Nothing else in the secular world can arouse their interest anymore, which actually leads the author to the bold conclusion that this system will eventually become the ultimate life mode for all human beings.
Well, wait, I have to push back on this framework a little bit.
Sure, go for it.
Let's talk about the people our secular society considers to be at the absolute peak of human existence. The billionaires. The tech moguls. The people who hold ultimate financial power.
The ones at the top of the secular mountain.
Exactly. A billionaire could theoretically give it all away tomorrow. They have the option to be unselfish. Doesn't that count for something?
Yeah.
Does the text just ignore the apex of secular success?
No, it addresses them directly. And it dismisses their achievements entirely in the context of this highest state.
Really? completely dismisses them.
Completely. The text acknowledges that becoming a billionaire or president is the peak of secular society, but it claims that the life realm of these celebrities is thousands of miles away from true unselfishness and selflessness.
So having the option to give everything away isn't enough to reach the highest state.
Well, because having the option means you still bear the burden of choice and the burden of management.
Oh, I see.
The billionaire still possesses vast amounts of property, which requires security, legal teams, constant management, and that infrastructure inherently breeds fear and anxiety. They fail both metrics of the text's highest state.
Because they still have stuff and they still have worry.
Exactly. They are not unselfish because they hoard resources, and they are not selfless because their position generates immense worry.
So the author is essentially saying that the mechanics of hoarding wealth, even if you plan to be philanthropic with it, generate the very anxiety the highest state requires you to eliminate.
Spot on. And the author actively challenges the reader to find a single counterexample. Look at the secular world. Can you find anyone at all, who lives a totally carefree life with absolutely nothing?
In a secular society.
Right. The text claims that aside from historical spiritual anomalies like Christ Jesus or Buddha Shakyamuni, you simply cannot find this person in secular society.
Oh, wait, so we are left with a massive mechanical question here.
Mm.
On one side, you have the secular world where even the most successful people are drowning in possessions and anxiety thousands of miles from the ideal.
Right.
And on the other side, you have the second home, where the text claims members have nothing, yet live happily, joyously, freely, and blessedly. How does it actually do that? Like, are they just recruiting fundamentally different, morally superior human beings?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we find the core philosophical engine of the entire essay. The text argues that the difference isn't the individuals at all.
It's not about the people.
Not inherently. It has nothing to do with recruiting morally superior humans. It's about fundamentally changing the environment. The text uses the metaphor of soil or the procedures of life.
Okay, let's look at the actual mechanics of this environment then, because the rules of existence in the essay are brutally strict.
They really are.
The text says that in the worldly program, meaning our secular traditional society, if you are truly unselfish, if you literally own nothing and give everything away without a safety net, you simply cannot exist.
You'll freeze. You'll starve.
Right, you won't survive. The environment will crush you through starvation or exposure. But conversely, in the Swefeng-style communist life program, the rule is totally flipped.
Yeah.
If you are selfish, there is no place for you at all. The system will reject you.
It is a theory of absolute environmental determinism. The soil dictates the harvest.
The soil dictates the harvest. I like that.
To explain how this mechanism works, the text offers this incredible, extreme hypothetical. It says, if an angel enters the procedure of secular life, they are very likely to become a devil.
Because if a system demands selfishness just to pay the rent to buy groceries, even an angel will eventually have to start hoarding resources. I mean, they have to protect themselves.
The environment will corrupt them because survival demands it. But, the text argues, if a devil enters the procedure of Shufeng-style communism, it is very likely they will become an angel.
Wow. A devil into an angel.
Yes, because the environment will purify them. The procedures of that life, presumably a collective guarantee of survival where food, shelter, and care are provided by the community, shut off the biological trigger for hoarding.
You don't need to be a selfish devil because the fear of starvation has been engineered out of the environment entirely.
Exactly.
That is wild, because that completely removes the burden of morality from the individual and places it entirely on the infrastructure of the system they live in.
It really does.
Implies that human nature isn't inherently greedy at all. It's just highly adaptable to the threat of scarcity.
Yes, and to hammer this point home, the author brings in a quote from the sages.
Oh, right. The quote is, it's like entering a room full of fragrant orchids and getting used to the sweet smell, staying in a fish market and getting used to the stink.
That analogy perfectly encapsulates the mechanics of environmental determinism. When you stand in a fish market, you don't make a conscious choice to smell like fish.
No, you definitely don't.
You don't fail a moral test. The environment simply imposes itself onto your clothes and your skin. You absorb the stink just by existing in that space.
It's like olfactory fatigue. You walk into a fish market and the smell hits you like a wall. But after, 20 minutes? You stop noticing it.
You just become part of the market.
Right. And the text is arguing that secular society is the fish market.
Yeah.
Greed, anxiety, that constant low-level panic about keeping your job or paying your mortgage,
Yeah.
that's the stink.
Yeah.
We've all been standing in it for so long we don't even realize we smell like it.
The second home, by contrast, is presented as the room full of fragrant orchids. You naturally become unselfish and selfless just by breathing the air there because the systemic procedures demand and reward that exact behavior.
Which leads to the ultimate, absolute conclusion of the essay. The author states unequivocally that if you want to climb to the highest state of life, if you want to be that celestial being or Buddha with zero possessions and zero anxiety, there's no other way to accomplish this.
No other way.
Other than by putting your heart and soul into the Zufen-style communist life program. It presents itself not just as an alternative lifestyle, but as the exclusive mechanism for human salvation from secular anxiety.
The essay leaves no room for half measures here. You cannot achieve this state by, meditating on weekends while working a corporate job. You have to change the soil completely.
So what does this all mean? We've covered sheep in water, fairy peaches, angels turning into devils, and fish markets. How do we actually take this incredibly radical specific text and apply it to you, the listener, right now?
Right. What's the takeaway for everyday life?
Because here's the thing. Whether or not you agree with a single word of this author's specific ideology, and whether or not you have any desire whatsoever to pack up your life and move to the second home, this text forces you to do something incredibly valuable.
What's that?
It forces you to critically evaluate the invisible infrastructure of your daily life.
This raises an important question, actually. How much of the friction you experience every single day is genuinely a result of your own personal failings? And how much is just a symptom of the soil you are planted in?
Yes.
The true value of engaging with a source like this isn't necessarily in adopting its exact utopian vision. It's in recognizing how deeply our specific environments dictate our stress levels, our baseline anxiety, and our capacity to be generous.
Think about your workplace, or your social circle, or even just the city you navigate every day. When you are feeling burned out, or you catch yourself acting selfishly, or you are just overwhelmed by this sense of dread about the future, are you struggling because you lack moral fiber?
Probably not.
Right. Or are you just a fish trying to climb a tree?
Mm-hmm.
Are you exhausting yourself trying to act like an unselfish angel in an environment that is mathematically and economically designed to turn you into a devil just to survive?
We spend a massive amount of time, energy, and money trying to fix ourselves.
Oh, totally. The self-help industry is huge.
Right, we download meditation apps, we read books, we try to optimize our morning routines to become better, less anxious people. But if the soil is inherently toxic, or if the rules of the game demand ruthless competition, no amount of individual self-improvement will change the fact that the environment demands a certain kind of armor.
And that leads me to the final thought I want to leave you with today. Something to just, mull over on your commute or while you're cooking dinner tonight.
Let's hear it.
If our environment shapes our morality and our mental state as drastically as this text claims, if it truly is as simple and absolute as the fish market versus the fragrant orchids, to what extent are your own daily anxieties, your worries, and your fears actually yours?
That's a deep question.
Are they a core, permanent part of your personality? Or are they just the stink of the fish market you happen to be standing in right now?
It's a question that challenges the very core of how we view our own identity and, frankly, our own accountability.
It really does. Keep examining the ground beneath your feet. Keep questioning the soil around you. And thank you for taking this deep dive with us.